Isaac and his mother lived alone in a small house on a hill. Isaac kept to himself, drawing pictures and playing with his toys as his mom watched Christian broadcasts on the television. Life was simple, and they were both happy. That was until the day Isaac's mom heard a voice from above. "Your son has become corrupted by sin. He needs to be saved." "I will do my best to save him, my lord," Isaac's mother replied, rushing into Isaac's room, removing all that was evil from his life. Again the voice called to her. "Isaac's soul is still corrupt. He needs to be cut off from all that is evil in this world and confess his sins." "I will follow your instructions, Lord. I have faith in thee," Isaac's mother replied, as she locked Isaac in his room, away from the evils of the world. One last time, Isaac's mom heard the voice of God calling to her. "You've done as I've asked, but I still question your devotion to me. To prove your faith, I will ask one more thing of you." "Yes, Lord, anything," Isaac's mother begged. "To prove your love and devotion, I require a sacrifice. Your son Isaac will be this sacrifice. Go into his room and end his life as an offering to me to prove you love me above all else." "Yes, Lord," she replied, grabbing a butcher's knife from the kitchen. Isaac, watching through a crack in his door, trembled in fear. Scrambling around his room to find a hiding place, he noticed a trapdoor to the basement hidden under his rug. Without hesitation, he flung open the hatch, just as his mother burst through his door and threw himself down into the unknown depths below.
3, 2, 1. Hello everyone, and welcome to Dark Natter, the podcast where we throw your favourite works of dark
I'm
fiction...
Liam Martin. Sorry, mate, sorry.
I'll go
I couldn't resist.
It's very deserved. Oh God, just for the benefit of the listeners, this is the third time we've tried to record the opening. I'm having a bad day. Hello everyone, and welcome to Dark Natter, the podcast
again?
where we throw you bastards.
I actually genuinely meant that. Sorry, do you want us to clap again?
Let's do the whole thing again.
All right.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Hello everyone, and welcome to Dark Natter, the podcast where we throw your favourite works of dark fiction into a dungeon and see if they can fend for themselves. I am John Richter.
And here's Johnny.
Very good.
Actually, I'm Liam Martin.
Oh shit, I thought you were someone else.
Oh, yeah.
Not really. Pleasure to be back talking to you, Liam, because we're sprinkling in a few guests, aren't we, this season?
Feels like you're phasing me out, to be honest with you.
I mean, that's the long game,
Yeah.
but I didn't want you to figure it out yet. Hey, I've got a bit that I want to do, okay?
Okay.
Is that all right? So I listen to Atletico Mints, which is Bob Mortimer's football podcast. He co-presents it with this bloke called Andy Dawson. And every so often he does like a tune where he sort of gently mocks his co-host to this particular piece of music. And I think I'm right in saying the piece of music's freely available so we can nick it. And I've written you a little poem to the same tune, okay?
Oh, that's nice.
So yeah, it's an affectionate little ode to you,
Yeah.
all right? Are you ready for this?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing it.
3 full verses, so it might go on for a while. Oh, hang on. Right, I've just played the music into my headphones and it's got like a little intro bit. So you have to sort of waffle through the intro before the chorus kicks in. So it's like a summery kind of relaxing kind of summer tune. So imagine you know on a nice pleasant river cruise on the coast of Gloucester. Can you imagine that?
No, but yep.
Here we go. Oh no, it's not yet. It's not kicked in yet.
Fucking hell.
Time to fill in. Stick with it. You're on a river cruise, coast of Gloucester. The wind's whistling through your hair.
I haven't got any.
You've got the sun on your
head,
chops.
Yeah.
Got a nice cool beer. Lockdown's over.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Just picture the scene.
I got no sweets this week.
Well, imagine you've got some of them as well. Oh, Mr. Martin. Oh, Mr. Martin. Claims to be a journalist. Writes most of his articles while pissed. Oh, Mr. Martin. Oh, Liam Martin. His sanity is cracking. His research skills are lacking. Oh, Mr. Martin. Sat at his keyboard farting. Buys his booze by the keg. His head looks like a boiled egg. That's it. That's what I did.
I've got one word for you, mate. Prick. That was very nice, actually. Yeah, the boiled egg thing I could have done without, but to be fair, most of that was true.
Well, I thought it would be difficult for you to dispute any of it. It's all factually accurate. Isn't it?
Especially the research skills.
Now that was a bit of a cheap shot because actually you've been putting a lot of effort in on that.
I really don't. I really don't.
Well, maybe next time you can do a little poem all about me.
Maybe not.
Oh, no, you might have.
There won't be a next time.
This could be the finale. Unwittingly ended the show prematurely. Well, we've self-indulged for long enough. We should probably tell the listeners what we're here to actually talk about.
Indeed.
Can you remember?
Well, let's explain the concept first.
Yes.
You can do that.
No, go on. Go on. You have a go.
So basically, each episode, two people, always John, sometimes me, come onto the show, and one pitches to t'other about a piece of dark fiction, be it a book, a video game, a movie franchise. I know you hate that word.
Franchise.
The aim of the pitch is to see if this piece of dark fiction is worthy of a spot in the hallowed halls of the Hall of Pain.
Oh, we
reversed it.
Didn't we?
Yeah,
I did the laugh.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready for that.
I'm John Richter, and
I'm Kangon.
And actually, so this time it's you pitching to me, isn't it?
That's the plan.
Yeah. Let's also. Can I just also say we say pitching to each other. We agree on these things before, and they always get into the fucking Hall of Pain. Bar one thing, it's more of a collaborative effort, really. But hey, that's the concept.
We've got to keep up. Yeah, the pretense of some sort of tension and some sort of vague structure. Really, it's just us two talking bollocks about a dark fiction thing that we
already like. Yeah.
That hopefully you will like as well.
Yes.
Sometimes we do things you've heard of.
Yeah.
You know, quite popular, well-established franchises. Other times we do really obscure shit that no one cares about.
I feel like this might fall into that category. Yeah.
I think it probably does, but we're doing it anyway. We are here today to discuss The Binding of Isaac, the video game.
Ooh.
Which is a game that, well, you briefly lived in my house, didn't you, when you first moved to London, before you got your own place.
Couldn't wait to move out. All you did is play bloody Binding of Isaac all the fucking time, eh?
I had it on a lot, didn't I? I was quite into it at the time. You had to sort of... Was I working from home a lot?
No, so you were just... I don't know. It was like you didn't have a job, because all I ever saw you do was play Binding of Isaac. I was worried about you.
I was working from home, by which I mean I was playing the Binding of Isaac while on conference calls.
No, you didn't work. You worked from home a little bit. Not a lot, though. Although it does feel like I kept walking into you playing it a lot, so... Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to work out. Why was I able to play The Binding of Isaac all the time while you were doing...
I think you were working, and then you had a brief break before another job.
And just crammed in loads of gaming.
Yeah, you would have had some time off during... I mean, I was only there for, month, 2 months? 2 months, I think, yeah.
But I think during that year, whatever year that was, I just hammered Isaac every day for months because it's, as we'll come on to, it's an incredibly addictive, engaging game that encourages you to replay it over and over and over again.
Did you ever do that one challenge you couldn't finish?
No, to my shame, I had to give up. And to make it even worse, my brother's done it.
Percy! Sorry.
Just galling. It makes me sick.
You got to get back on it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. It's shameful, really. To explain what the game is, it is an indie roguelike is the genre. We'll explain what that is in a minute. An indie roguelike video game designed by Edmund Macmillan and Florian Himsel. First released for Windows in 2011 and later ported to consoles and various other operating systems. So it has been with us for a decade now, The Binding of Isaac, which is incredible. Wow. It's been incredibly successful, spawned shed loads of spin-offs, expansions, all manner of stuff. The version I got very early on after I got my PS4, so we're going back to the early days of the PS4, was The Binding of Isaac Rebirth, which was a kind of expanded and revamped edition. And even that since had multiple follow-ups, including there's been like The Wrath of the Lamb. There's one coming out soon, which called Repentance, and there was a version called Afterbirth, wasn't there? Which was very nice. Yeah. But
I was going to say, you actually did a little peek behind the curtain, but the date we record this, we are less than a week away actually until Repentance launches. So probably out by the time this airs, but yeah.
Can he wait for that? But
it's on my wish list.
But all it is, all these expansions are in effect is just it's the same game with more stuff in. And I'll try and explain what that is. So apparently the game was a result of a week-long game jam between Macmillan and Himsel, attempting to develop a Zelda-inspired roguelike game, which enabled Macmillan to showcase some of his feelings about religion, some of his mixed feelings, having been apparently brought up by a mixture of Catholics and born-again Christians who constantly squabbled throughout his childhood. So there's some of that stuff thrown into there. The plot's kind of loosely inspired by the biblical story of the Binding of Isaac, but again, we'll come on to the sort of plot and some of its interesting ambiguity. But yeah, in really simple terms, it's in terms of gameplay, you are controlling a character on a screen with 4 doors, up, down, left or right. Sometimes there's a door missing, so you can only go left or up or down. And you go progress into the next screen, there'll be some combination of items to collect and monsters to kill. And the game is basically a series of these screens in a randomised, procedurally generated way. So you never know what you're going to get in terms of combinations of monsters, combinations of items, weapons, other anomalous kind of weird features that crop up. So every time you play the game, it's in effect a randomised, different, new, unique experience. And you either get all the way through to the end and complete it, well done, and usually unlock more hidden stuff, or you die en route. You don't have any extra lives, there's no saving, you're just dead, deleted, that world disappears, you never see it again, and back to the beginning you go to have another go. Probably
worth mentioning that Edmund Macmillan, if you haven't heard of Binding of Isaac, you might have heard of Super Meat Boy, which was the game that really put him on the map, wasn't it? Came out, I think, only a year before Binding of Isaac, but that probably more famous than Isaac, would you say? Or...
It's a tricky one, isn't it? So there's a movie called, or it's almost like a documentary movie called Indie Game the Movie, and that came out about, I don't know, it's about 10 years old, and it follows a small number of indie game developers, so these kind of 1 or 2 man bands who are trying to make these games and, killing themselves, working every hour under the sun to get these things done. And Macmillan is featured in there with his game Super Meat Boy, along with a different programmer, not Himsel. It's a guy called Tommy. And it's quite sweet and moving, isn't it? You've got these 2 kind of likeable, nerdy young guys who are trying to make it in the video games industry and struggling to support themselves and their young families. And in some cases, you can see this kind of mental health type issues with some of these kind of people. And they're all kind of like sort of I guess, geeky loner types. That's a massive generalisation, but it's kind of true in this case. And you're sort of rooting for them, aren't you? You want them to be successful. And in the end, Meat Boy sold millions of copies and made him a millionaire. So brilliant ending.
I just thought it was worth mentioning that because, you may have heard of Meat Boy and not of Isaac, or... Yeah,
I don't know which is the more successful now, because I think Isaac sold millions of copies as well. So the guy is just a, kick Midas touch, really. Everything he does seems to be...
Yeah.
So Meat Boy, I mean, he'd made loads of games before that, but all very sort of niche and not, mainstream success. But he has got recently we've had Berserk, we've had Preacher, and now this. It's a very kind of sick sense of humour, isn't it? It's all gore and poo and childish kind of lowbrow stuff.
I want to say, I know we'll get on to the plot and the kind of hidden meanings of these things later on, but it is worth pointing out that I had a similar view where first time I saw Isaac, I just thought it was like a toilet humour game. Yeah. But it really isn't. It's when you kind of look past what it is and what it means, it's actually, it's really quite dark, isn't it? Which is why it's on here. But you're right. It's very kind of disgusting, flies and like poo and
the basic premise of The Binding of Isaac is about a boy called Isaac who is depicted as like a baby. He's depicted as like he's like 1 year old or something, and his mum is very religious, and God speaks to her and instructs her that your son has been corrupted by sin. So she has to, cleanse him, and initially that involves seemingly just chucking all of his toys away. Then it involves locking him in his room. Then it involves taking his clothes away, so it's getting a bit disturbing. And then in the end, she is instructed by God in her delusion or is it a delusion, to kill Isaac to prove her devotion to God, and she agrees. So she takes a knife into Isaac's room to do away with her poor little son. And just luckily enough for Isaac, there is a trapdoor into the basement, and he flings it open, jumps down to escape from his psycho mum. And the game is in effect kind of a shoot-'em-up where Isaac is battling monsters and demons in the basement that may or may not be demons from his own mind by shooting his tears at them. Yeah. Which is just a horrible premise, isn't it?
As I say, I mean, if you look at a screenshot of the game, it doesn't look like much, does it? But when you play it with the sound effects and everything, and knowing what you've just pointed out, it's quite a sort of powerful game, really. Yeah,
it's kind of moving, isn't it, in a weird way? Because you do feel sorry for poor little sobbing, crying, mistreated Isaac, and it's what it lacks in technical capability, because it's obviously very simple graphics, but it sort of makes up for in just content. It's absolutely packed full of, there's loads of this randomization, there's so much stuff, so many different monsters, all of which are twisted, disgusting, horrible. You've got like deformed babies with their eyes missing, you've got, like you said, disgusting flies and insects, you've got sort of poo with a face on it, you've got spiders and things like that. It's all kind of like grotesque snot. Everything's kind of disgusting, which I don't know whether that's... Macmillan's not entirely... He doesn't sort of openly come out and say, oh yeah, I had a terrible abused childhood, because I'm not sure, I don't think he did. He's just... I'm sure I've read an interview somewhere where he had some sort of like sort of bowel problems. So his whole childhood involved, he had lots of issues around, toilet-based trauma, which I guess in some ways happens to all of us to some degree. As a child, you go through all of that. So it does feel weirdly like it's like a child's eye view of some kind of dark, sinister stuff, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, and that's the thing, like, the pieces of shit that he encountered, like, is that his own feces? And it's just when you really start thinking about it.
And we'll come on to that, but the implication is that Isaac's been locked in a basement, and he's trapped down there with insects, rodents, and his own excrement. It's really dark.
Really dark.
But so you've not just got the monsters, you've also got the bosses. So at the end of each level, and it all gets very sort of symbolic. So the first level is just the basement, but then you progress, I think, into like the depths is one of the levels, and then you end up in you can end up in hell. You can even end up in the womb. So it's like really addressing some of his mother issues. But yeah, each level ends with a boss, and again, there's dozens and dozens of different bosses. And again, they're all disgusting, they're all grotesque. You've got some of them are sort of indefinable lumps of mangled flesh with funny faces. Other one, big giant spiders. I'm trying to think if there's any really... Can you think of any particularly memorable ones for you? There's a big poo one, obviously.
Yeah. I was going to say that, but I didn't want to sound like I'm just focusing on shit.
It's the only bit you seem to have remembered. And he ultimately, the final boss...
There's like a tumour, isn't there? And
really sick stuff, like you say, like a tumour. And ultimately the final boss is his mum, who you only see her foot, and she's like, Isaac, and trying to stamp on him. But you can kill his mum, and then that just unlocks more and more of the game. But yeah, it's very exciting. You don't know what boss you're going to get. You don't know what weapon you're going to be fighting the boss with. And that's perhaps the other component is the items. So again, you can have a run on Isaac where you just pick up a load of rubbish stuff and you don't get very far. And other times you can pick up a fantastic combination that makes you super powerful and makes that particular run really successful. And that all just adds to the mix of this kind of unpredictable, chaotic, sort of exciting game.
Well, that's the other thing. Obviously, we're talking about this because it's very dark, but it's actually a really good game. It's really simple. If you just look at it and the basic premise, you're just firing these tears in different directions at enemies. But like you said, the combination of the items, so many different possibilities, and so hard to remember them all that it's a really addictive game with just so much replay value.
Yeah, the combination thing is brilliant and it's all manually done. It's not like the game works this out. It's just all been done one by one, sort of programmed in, drawn, meticulously hand-drawn by Macmillan. So if you pick up one item and then you pick up another, he's not just drawn, this is what Isaac looks like if he's picked up a tomahawk. This is what Isaac looks like if he's got flaming tears. He's then bothered to show, and this is what Isaac looks like if he's got both. He's crying flaming tomahawk tears. It's mad, the amount of effort that's gone into it is unbelievable. I was just looking up then while we were talking. The item that I always used to like is this thing called Ipecac. I have no idea if I'm saying that correctly. Ipecac.
Is that the stuff that makes you vomit?
Yeah, I think you're supposed to take it as syrup of Ipecac to make it aids in the clearance of mucus from the upper and lower airways. And his in particular, the rapidly induced forceful vomiting was considered for many years to be an important frontline treatment for orally ingested poisons. However, subsequent studies revealed the stomach purging produced by Ipecac to be far less effective. So it's a sort of discredited treatment. But if you get that, he basically cries exploding tears at the enemies. So you just sort of blowing them to smithereens with your explode. But then you can team that up with things that give you giant tears. So then you can have like giant exploding tears, and before you know it, you're just blasting your way through all the levels. And even that is disgusting. Yeah. The thing that you get that gives you giant tears is, I can't remember the name of it, but it's some sort of medical condition where he has like a giant deformed eyeball. It's just horrible. But yeah, dark and sinister mind has spawned this stuff.
The other good thing about it, it's not just the weapon combinations, which you get some good item combinations and you'll be able to have a good run. That's not the only bit of variety in the game. Once you defeat Isaac's mother, you basically there are just lots of other things that you unlock and lots of other different endings you can unlock, and some quite hidden, aren't they?
And ultimately you can end up, I think, you fight his mum at the end of level 6, but by the end you can end up with like a 10th or even an 11th level But I think one of them, the sort of, it's interesting. You can take one of two paths at that point, and you can end up. He doesn't explicitly call it hell. I think it's called Sheol. But you do fight Satan as the final finale boss. If you take the other route, which ostensibly is taking you towards heaven, you end up in a final. The path there takes you to the cathedral, but you don't ever fight God. He steered away from having God in the game as a boss character. You actually fight Isaac himself, as if it's like his own enemy, or he's battling his own kind of demons. But beyond that, the dark route takes you to a place called the Dark Place, whereas the heavenly route takes you to a place called the Chest, as in a box. And this is not explicitly stated in the game at all, but it is a theory online.
Heavily implied, yeah.
Yeah, the implication is that Isaac isn't in the basement at all, isn't having an adventure in a subterranean cave of monsters. He's hiding in his toy chest, and he suffocates.
Fucking hell.
So one of the endings shows like a blue, apparently dead Isaac. And it's like, Jesus, that is a depressing, dark twist. But equally, we should stress that the tone of the game is kind of light-hearted and silly. So it's just a right mess, isn't it? Like, all over the place, but makes it quite compelling.
Well, that's what I said, you can't... It's not a game you can judge by a screenshot. I think it's something you do need to play and experience for yourself, and... I got quite addicted to it at one point, but obviously not as much as you. But yeah, you've got to kind of see it in motion and try and get those different endings to really kind of get to the bottom of it. What were the differences between... So you've kind of mastered Rebirth. What about the other versions? What have they added?
It was just more stuff, just more bosses, more items, more randomised screens, more
endings.
Stuff. I can't remember if there were. I think there must have been. There were definitely more like. There was a whole different mode called Greed Mode, which was almost like a mini game that was to do with collecting as many coins as you could, and the final boss of that was a different boss. It was like a great big coin-firing sort of stuffed dead Isaac with like coins in its eyes.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm forgetting, some of the bosses. You've got the 7 deadly sins are in the game. So you can fight lust, greed, sloth. Yeah. They're all represented. The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse are in the game. So death, pestilence, war, famine. But then also conquest, who I think was one of the original 4 horsemen. I don't know too much about the canon of the Bible, but I think there's some confusion over... it used to be Conquest, but then he got replaced by Pestilence, I think. So he's in it. So there's so much stuff, and sort of biblical references as well, that you could play the game for hours and hours, weeks and weeks, and there's still be new stuff you've never seen before. It really is. It looks very light and shallow and low budget, but it's got a huge amount of depth in it.
Yeah.
Also worth mentioning the game's soundtrack, because it's great. It's like this real sort of... Some of it is a bit more sort of melodic, I guess, but it's obviously kind of dark, sinister, but a lot of it is just this real kind of ambient sound that's just kind of rumbling away in the background and gets really sort of eerie the further you get into the game.
I can't remember the soundtrack at all, actually. Probably because you were always nattering over it, but...
Talking bollocks over the top. Hey, watch this bit, it's cool.
No, I can't remember that at all.
The Binding of Isaac soundtrack done by Danny Baranovsky, who apparently previously worked with Macmillan on Super Meat Boy. But yeah, I think he did a belting job.
Yeah.
And probably worth mentioning, I guess.
Not that I can remember.
Yeah. Well, I suppose it isn't memorable as a series of tunes. It was more like a real menacing underscore.
Yeah. Have you got the soundtrack? Do you own it?
No, actually, but I do sometimes stick it on in the background while I'm at work. When I'm not listening to Silent Hill soundtrack, I might venture off into other creepy stuff. One other thing worth mentioning is Macmillan, who I think is pretty good at promotion, to be honest, he's come up with some really good ideas. Like if you watch the trailers for these games, I think they're really cool. Like you mentioned Repentance is out next week, I think.
Yeah.
Like the trailer for that is good. It's just got Isaac in his room crying, surrounded by all his items, and then his mum just opens the door and she's just like a dark silhouette with a knife, and it's Repentance.
God.
But he did an actual reality game, what they call like an ARG game. Are you familiar with this?
Yeah. I am, yeah.
Amazing. So it was promoting one of the expansions or whatever, and he put some unbelievably complicated series of things in the game, and it was like, if you complete the game on the hardest possible challenge mode and pick up the rarest item and then use the item in a certain context, you'll get a series of dots and dashes, which I can't remember if it was Morse code. Who knows? You could look this up actually if you on YouTube. It's brilliant. But ultimately, this led to a series of numbers. So, who are the people who are going to bother to do any of this stuff or even figure this out? But like we always find, the internet finds a way.
The internet, yeah, absolutely.
So somebody managed to figure out that these were coordinates, and they went to the place that was the coordinates, and it was, I don't know, some abandoned parking lot in America, which probably is a bit dangerous, to be honest, but anyway. And they dug up what was there, and it was like a little... like a sort of what's the word? Like a figure, like an Isaac figurine. And I think I think it may even have been like that was announcing the next release, the next update that was going to be released for the game. But imagine being that person. Imagine how exciting that would have been to rock up, rock up in the dead of night with a spade, start digging away, and be like, oh my god, Edmund Macmillan was here.
Wonder as well how much collectors would have paid for that as well.
I wonder what happened to the thing. Like whether the guy still got it or sold it or... Yeah,
that's incredible.
That's a brilliant thing. And it must be so... Like, imagine being... It's like a true... Like that's the word I'm looking for. Like an auteur. But, like... Nowadays, most modern games are made by massive... the AAA games are made by these huge billion-pound companies. Everything's made by committee. That's why everything's kind of the same and a bit boring and sanitised. But these indie games, we are back to like old school ZX Spectrum... one bloke in his bed. Well, it doesn't have to be a bloke, of course, but sadly they often are. One person in their bedroom programming a game, so they can put all these kind of mad crackpot ideas in there and get away with it.
It's funny though, because some bigger games like Call of Duty, their latest game is like set during the Cold War, and they did a whole kind of crazy sort of in-game code thing where you found coordinates to kind of tease the new game. So I mean it's not just the indie studios who do it, but I think it's infinitely more interesting digging up an Isaac figurine than it is just finding out what the next Call of Duty is going to be called. But it's I like that. Yeah, so it's good. It's a good way. It's a good way to get the sort of real hardcore fans and just get the internet abuzz.
Yeah, it's cool, isn't it? I mean, I suppose we've seen, we actually did 2 Silent Hill podcasts because the first one was knackered.
We did.
And we talked about PT, which was Playable Teaser, which was this weird, creepy game, and the twist at the end when you finally unlocked the incredibly complicated ending was that it was revealed to be a trailer for a Silent Hill game. Like, that was a cool idea.
Yeah.
Sadly never made.
Slightly less remarkable. Very good, but just not quite as obscure as what you just dropped on us. But the loading screens in the game as well are quite entertaining, aren't they?
Yeah, brilliant. And even that was like a throwback to, like, I remember playing Fast Food Dizzy on my Spectrum.
Wow.
Which was like remember Dizzy the egg? He's like an egg with a face.
Yeah, I remember Dizzy. Arms
and legs. And he had this was a bit like Pac-Man. He was just like running around.
The Oliver twins.
Yeah, the Codemasters. They were called the Codemasters. And in between each level, it had these little, I guess you'd call them cartoons, and it was like Dizzy getting one over on the monsters, and it was all like crap animation, but kind of cute. And yeah, Isaac's kind of got those, but even those are blooming horrible.
I know.
Can you think of...
Isn't there one where he gets his pants pulled down or something, or
well, that one sounds that sounds familiar, to be honest. It's like he's in the playground talking to like some girl who he presumably likes, and then someone just pops up behind him and pulls his pants down and humiliates him. And then there's one where he's on the toilet and realises there's no toilet roll. That's quite funny. But then there's also one where he bites into an apple and someone's put a razor blade in it and he coughs up a load of blood onto the floor. So
honestly, this game...
the tone is just all over the place.
Yeah.
Oh, what else is there? I'm trying to think if there's any more. Well, there are more, but I'm just trying to think of any examples. But yeah, some of those are absolutely horrific. And all kind of hand-drawn by Macmillan again, who is a talented, talented sadistic artist, I guess you would say.
I was just looking up actually about the Sheol place you mentioned.
Yes.
And it's basically kind of like the underworld, isn't it? A place of darkness to which the dead go.
It is weird that he shied away from, there's no level called hell, there's no level called heaven. God isn't in the game, but Satan is. And then there is a super secret thing where you find these rooms that have what appear to be angels in, like the seraphim.
Oh, yeah.
You call them, you kill them. And then that unlocks a super secret ending, and I thought, oh my god, this is it. This is going to be it. I'm going to fight God. No, it's Mega Satan. Which I don't know what one above Satan is. Mega Satan.
I really want to play it. I can't wait for Repentance to come out.
Yeah, I'll definitely get it. I don't know if it's out on PlayStation immediately though, sadly. I'll have to check. But
well, I've just got this really cool gaming PC, so I've never been a PC gamer.
No, me neither.
I've always just stuck to consoles, but it's kind of opened up all this sort of new genres and just new games that I would never really have touched before, and it's great that this is out first on
that's
PC.
Brilliant. Get Pathologic 2. I've been bigging that game up for months, but the PS4 version is I loved it, but it is very sort of buggy and crap loading delays and quite a bad port. I think if you had a good PC to play the original on, it's amazing. You'll love it.
I'll get Repentance first.
Fair dues.
You'd probably get the original Pathologic, couldn't you?
You definitely can. It's on Steam.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure I think the second one is probably better. But
yeah. It was got a bit of a cult following, didn't it? But
yeah. I've watched so many videos about it now. That's another game I got obsessed with.
Yeah, when you like a game, you properly get into it, don't you?
Rinse it out. Yeah, Darkwood, I was telling you about before, wasn't I?
Yeah.
I've been playing that for 3 hours a night. Stayed up till 1 o'clock last night playing on it.
Spelunky.
Oh, well, so I was just going to go back to explaining what a roguelike is.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, good segue.
Because I think, thanks to you, because, God, did I get into Spelunky? Oh, my God. So I'll probably explain this wrong, but Rogue was a game. So roguelike means a game like Rogue, which was a game that came out whenever. Old classic game. But the idea is that you've got these sort of procedurally generated... So it's different every time you play it, randomised, but obviously randomised within constraints. You don't want it randomised to throw up an impossible game or a crap boring game. So the skill of these programmers is to kind of get the constraints and the parameters right. Because equally, you don't want every game to be so similar that it may as well not bother being randomised. It may as well just be curated. So you've got to try and get the balance right. So as a player, you're launched into this unfamiliar, unique, no one's ever going to get it again world. And then it's, right, off you go, get to the end or die. But if you die, that's it. You're gone, your world's deleted, sort of permadeath, they call that. And I think there's loads of scope with these games. I think because it means it's really stressful, high tension, you're desperate not to die because you're trying to get further than you've ever been before. And Spelunky was the other one that was... I guess I played at a similar time to The Binding of Isaac because it was indie game out in the early days of the PlayStation, and just that game ruined my life for a few months. I couldn't stop playing it. It was just unbelievable.
Yeah, and some of these roguelike games, they you die, but when you restart, you start back at the beginning. Well, in a new environment, but sometimes you keep the stats or some item maybe. And so there are lots of variants of them, but. It's a really popular genre, isn't it, at the moment?
There seems, and I guess it's sort of the sort of thing that you can make as an indie developer where you don't need to have amazing blow-you-away graphics. You can have these quite simple, sort of old-fashioned two-dimensional, but if you have a good twist on the roguelike genre, it can still make an addictive game.
Yeah.
This I don't think counts as a roguelike at all, but I'm just going to mention it anyway. Have you heard of a game called Dwarf Fortress?
Yeah. Really incredible game, actually. Like, they actually... Don't they think it's going to become... like self-aware at some point, or
what? So, well, let's talk about Dwarf Fortress then. So, my understanding is one bloke made it, and he's been working on it for decades. He doesn't bother with any graphics, so the game is made in like DOS style. You know, like the graphic of a dwarf is just a hash, and the graphic of a goblin is just the letter O, and the graphic of some grass is just the letter L. So he hasn't bothered wasting any time on anything except the actual game. I think, you know, it's all randomly procedurally generated world and all that stuff. It's not so much a roguelike. I get the impression it's more of like a role-playing game where you're playing these dwarves and you're trying to, I don't know, build an empire. But it's got like diseases in the game and proper mechanics between different kingdoms, and it's got like every individual dwarf has got like their own attributes and personalities and different behaviours. So you might have like, I don't know, a one-armed dwarf who's really self-confident, and then you might have another one who's like, you know, really strong warrior but he's afraid of snakes. Like, just that ridiculous amount of kind of detail packed into it.
Yeah.
But I've never played it. It might be dead boring.
Yeah, it's pretty staggering though, isn't it?
I just love, as you can tell, this like one-man band game thing that's almost had a bit of a resurgence in the last, I don't know, would you say it's in the last 10 years, last 20 years?
Yeah, I think so. I think, so when I remember, I mean, obviously, solo and small teams of developers have been making games for years and years, but for me, I remember when the Xbox 360 was out, and they really started pushing indie games again, and it all kind of started with Braid, and then Limbo, yeah. Braid and Limbo, and that for me was when the term kind of indie game suddenly became a thing, you know, and
yeah,
since then, it just seems like there's. Perhaps maybe it's easier now with digital publishing just to be a small team and making, release a game. I don't know, but
yeah, there's a few others worth mentioning, isn't there? While we're on the subject, I guess in that indie game, the movie, you've got the guy who made Braid, you've got Macmillan with Meat Boy, you've also got the guy Phil Fish who made Fez, which I think his experience of the video game industry was so sort of toxic that he sort of retired after that, which is a shame because Fez is ace. It's like a really cool, unique, quirky little game. But
yeah, I think what happened was one of the versions came out and it had a bug in it. I think it was the Xbox one. It had a bug where it could basically end your game, and because at the time I think Microsoft charged developers to release updates, which is fine if you're a big game publisher, you can just constantly release updates. But so I think he said no, it wasn't, I'm
not going
in
to
his
bother
best
fixing
interest
it.
to do it. And obviously that just caused a big hoorah with people online. I think that was kind of what
the last
set it
straw.
off. I could be wrong. And then there was the whole like Gamergate thing and stuff. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's a shame really because Fez was really good.
And then the Braid guy, Jonathan Blow, who comes across as a kind of very quirky, interesting character, he made another game called The Witness. That's that sort of maze. That is brilliant as well. Absolute masterpiece. Don't know if have you played much of that?
Yeah, I've played a bit of it. Yeah, played a bit and then got stuck, and then played a bit more, got stuck, and then just haven't bothered to finish it. Basically, because I'm too thick. But
well, I'm sure that's not the case. But I know what you mean. There's too many games to play, isn't there? But
very good though. Yeah, clever puzzles. You finished that, didn't you?
So one of my proudest gaming achievements is I finished The Witness without using a guide.
Did you use graph paper and everything to?
I had a notebook, with like trying to work out the solutions to some stuff, and I did have that was when Hayden's brother Jack was living at mine for a bit. So after you went, it was like a revolving door policy at the time. And my then Mrs. Ashley. So one puzzle I was stuck on, Ashley figured out, and one puzzle I was stuck on, Jack figured out. So I wouldn't have done it. Wouldn't have done it without them.
So you cheated.
So basically, I may as well have used a guide. I used 2 human guides.
Yeah, you're a fucking fraud, mate. Because what do you think they used? They used guides, didn't they?
I hang my head in shame.
Yeah, maybe I'll go back to that. I was enjoying it. It's really satisfying as well when you figure out.
Totally.
Yeah, because some of the puzzles you figure them out. Like there's environmental clues, aren't there?
It's so good. There's can I do a spoiler for one?
Go on.
Spoilers for The Witness. Then I suppose there's one where there's basically you could pick various combinations on this maze. You could go up, down, or up, or up, down, left, and you've no idea what you're supposed to do. And then you just notice that there's like a bird tweeting, just incidental. There's another bird tweeting in the forest. But suddenly you're like, oh, maybe the bird noise is telling me, and you realise the bird's going like up, up, down with its, do you know what I mean? Like cheep, cheep, cheep. And it's like, oh, I'll just mirror that then. Ting, puzzle solved. Oh my God, yes! And you felt like the cleverest man alive for figuring it out. But really good. And actually, I suppose just one final thing on the whole kind of indie game is Toby Fox's Undertale is another massive, rags to riches kind of guy who made a game and became a millionaire overnight. Is another one, and he did all the soundtrack himself and everything, programmed the whole thing. I mean, that again is quite a staggering piece of work.
I'm a big fan of a game called Stardew Valley as well. Which
I've never played it.
It's just like a farming game. Actually, myself and my son G, we play it we were playing it like every day for one point. But yeah, it's just a really nice game.
And I guess, I suppose that's the kind of wholesome game that you would want to play with your kid rather than The Binding of Isaac, which is absolutely disgusting, but never mind.
No, maybe leave that one, yeah.
Well, I guess it's time for me to summarise my pitch, isn't it?
Yeah, that was a nice little, talking about indie games. And
I enjoyed where that one went.
Have you, actually, one other, have you heard of Untitled Goose Game?
I have, and I have not yet played it.
Oh, that's quite funny.
Do you play as the goose?
Yeah.
There's a game I saw called I Am Bread, where you play as a piece of bread.
That's like one of those kind of physics games, isn't it? Like a goat simulator and whatnot. Yeah.
Stupid, absolutely stupid nonsense. But a piece of bread flapping around and knocking people over. Very silly. Some great. I mean,
games. we say when I guess I'm talking slightly. I mean, Stardew Valley I think was a one person show. Some of these indie games, probably are made by fairly big teams. So, but Hollow Knight is another one.
Oh God, the list goes on, doesn't it?
That's got to have been made by quite a big group of people.
No, Hollow Knight was made by two people.
Wow,
which is unbelievable when you play it, because that game is massive and is brilliant. I can't believe I forgot to mention that. 2 people. Team Cherry is 2 people.
Into the Breach is one I absolutely love.
I've not played that one.
That was made by just a couple of people. They made a game called Faster Than Light as well. But Into the Breach, so good. It's like a micro strategy game. Yeah, it's really, really addictive. Slay the Spire. God, there's so many great.
There's loads, isn't there? Right, we salute you, indie game makers, because we can't do it. All we can do is play them and then chat about them on this podcast.
And we enjoy playing them.
We do indeed. Particularly
Papers, Please.
Papers, Please. That's another one.
Return of the Obra Dinn. That was the same.
Didn't like that one. Sorry, controversial.
I haven't played it yet, but
do it.
I like the look of it.
I'm too thick. That one made me feel thick, so I don't like it. I don't like it when I can't do stuff straight away easily. No patience. Well, The Binding of Isaac.
Enter the Gun. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, that was a good one.
That was a good one, though, yeah.
A dungeon full of guns called the Gungeon. Yeah. Very good. I'm gonna
Hotline Miami. I will stop now, I promise. That is it. That's it from me.
How do I outsmart him? The thing is, all the games you keep saying are all brilliant as well. So
I know.
you keep making me just want to start talking about them. Hotline Miami. Oh, the soundtrack. So good. Binding of Isaac.
Anyway.
Very good game.
Towerfall Ascension. No, please stop. It's not even funny anymore. But that was good, wasn't it? Towerfall Ascension.
It was very good. Celeste as well. That was very good.
Yeah.
Should we just keep listing indie games till we run
I'm
out?
sort of, because I feel like that one fell flat, so I'm determined to make it funny again.
Yeah, now you've got to recover the position.
I've got to just keep listing indie games. No, I will stop.
What would you do?
Needed Hawk. Yay, I got it. I did it.
If you were making an indie game, what would your game be about? Go on, pitch me a game now. Off the cuff.
Ooh, you put me on the spot there, mate. You've put me on the spot. I'll tell you what it wouldn't be. It wouldn't be a game about some little fetus-looking thing shooting tears and fighting big turds and religious zealots, because it's already been done so well.
You tried to do a really good segue then, but now I want to tell you my pitch for an indie game, because I want some, hopefully out there, inexplicably there's someone still listening to the show at this point, and hopefully they're an indie game developer and they're going to be inspired by this idea and they're going to make the game right. It is a game about an old retired knight. So he's all, he used to be a tough, bodyguard to the princess or whatever, but he's retired now because he's all infirm and, maybe even he's got a bit of dementia setting in. It's all kind of sad. But then the princess gets kidnapped and some horrendous, and he has to come out of retirement. He's the only person who can save her. But, in games you level up. So you normally, as you progress through the game, you have battles and your skills get better. So in this game, you level down. So the idea is that the character is getting progressively weaker, and by the end he can barely even carry his own armour, and maybe you're having to make decisions, do I want to forget the last spell that I ever learned, or do I want to get so weak I can't carry a sword? And it, kind of, you could even make it a deconstruction of the video game genre and have the graphics get worse, so it starts off as like a 3D, then it's a 2D platform thing, and then by the end it's just like a text adventure. And the name of the game is Old Guard.
Very good.
You having that?
I like it. I think we've revealed our true intention for this particular podcast.
It was just for me to pitch.
It was just
my
a pitch
game.
to get you signed up. But no, that is a really good idea.
Hey, someone's ringing me. I've got a phone call coming through. It's Edmund McMillan.
Oh my God.
He says he just heard my idea and he thought it was really shit. Oh damn. Never mind.
I guess the only thing is how would you keep it fun? How would it when you're kind of losing all your abilities?
This is not about fun. This is about.
Does it also lose the fun factor?
This is about suffering.
You still can't. I mean, like you said, if it's text adventure, you've suddenly got these really, important choices you've got to make, and so it could still be. But yeah, I guess that's just one thing to think about from a design.
Yeah, it would be one of those wallowing in misery games rather than a power fantasy. It would be very much so. Now,
I just want to say one more indie game. What Remains of Edith Finch?
Oh,
that is phenomenal.
It's a belter. Yeah, you've nailed
that
it.
That one segment with the fish factory.
Yeah.
Oh God, that was good.
It was really good, that game. Yeah. Or basically, if you can be asked to go skate back over this last few minutes, every game Liam has said you should buy it and play it, because every one of them I've played and they're all amazing.
Yeah.
Apart from Papers, Please, which I haven't played, but probably is amazing.
Yeah.
Right, there we go. Binding of Isaac, it's dead good. Horrible, dark, twisted.
Yeah. Endless
replayability. So much stuff packed into it that you literally can never get bored. Funny if you've got a sick, horrible mind. Kind of sad and moving at the same time. And as you say, it's not just about the story and the setting and the soundtrack. The actual game is just dead fun to play.
Yeah, really addictive.
What do you say? Is it in the Hall of Pain or what?
Well, let's think about this. As I've already stated my intention and the fact that I cannot wait to buy the new expansion next week, I think it's a safe bet to say that yes, The Binding of Isaac is in the hallowed halls of the Hall of Pain. In fact, Isaac will probably be quite at home down there.
Yeah, if anything.
With all the shit and...
Exactly, and all the misery and tears and darkness.
Yeah.
It might be like an upgrade for him.
We're doing him a favour. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's an act of mercy, isn't it? But
getting him away from his mum, so yeah.
Yeah, giving him his own private cell to sob in.
Yeah.
Bless him.
We'll even give him a toy or two, eh?
Or an item.
Yeah.
Give him a bottle of Ipecac. Is that how you say it?
I think so, yeah. I think so. Ipecac. That sounds right.
On which disgusting note, we should probably say bye then.
Bye.
We'll go and see how England are doing against San Marino. That could make us vomit if it's not going well.
I remember that. Do you remember the time when they scored against us in like 20 seconds?
I do.
Yeah.
We won about 10-1 or whatever, though, didn't we, in the end?
Yeah.
But yeah, poor old San Marino. We seem to always play them, don't we?
I know, yeah. They were always the team, whenever I got a new football game, they were always the first team I played against, because they were shit, so you sort of got used to the...
Yeah, FIFA 95, you might play against Qatar or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, there we go.
That's it.
Entertaining.
Yeah, I hope so. And we'll see you all, speak to you all again very soon.
I didn't get to do it earlier, so I thought...
Yeah, that's good.
Owl Boy.
Is that another indie game?
It is, yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you all for listening. Hope you enjoyed that somewhat rambling tour of the world of indie gaming, and particularly The Binding of Isaac, which is highly recommended. Also highly recommended is leaving us a 5-star review, of course, as well as listening to our back catalogue of dark fiction ramblings, which span 2 series, all available on wherever you're listening to this, and a variety of other podcasting platforms. Also recommended is my books, shameless plug. If you search for John Richter, that's JONRICHTER, on Amazon, you'll find, or just on the internet, you'll find a load of weird dark fiction books that I have written, and I think you might like if you like this show. If you don't like this show, you probably won't like the books, and one wonders why you're still listening, but thanks anyway, and we'll speak to you all very soon.